Hey, good afternoon. It is Monday afternoon. I've got my admin day cup of coffee. I had a few messages. Thank you everybody for the feedback on the last video. Someone asked if I could do a follow-up on the last video, and I'd actually like to go into a little bit more detail by going back a step. So we spoke about the idea of having the right perspective at a show or a competition to give our horse the best feeling, so to make sure that he came away from a competition having learned something that's really true and useful, not just in having competed. To make that possible, I think we have to look at the underpinning of the training, see what we're trying to show the horse, what we're trying to demonstrate, and really make sure that what we're trying to demonstrate is reflective of where the horse should be with its development and its training. So we start to look at how a movement might be helpful to a horse, how it might actually inhibit a horse's development, and what we should be doing as riders then to make that really clear. Now, before we speak about that, I think we have to talk about the idea of the training tools that we're given as riders, the skill to be able to critically analyze how our horse is doing, what he's doing, and then what we need to do as riders to help that along. Often when we're told as riders, we're given the finish line, so we're told what a horse should look like in a finished frame, should go like, should feel like. We're given the optical illusion, so if you all close your eyes for a moment and imagine your horse, most of us will imagine our horses in a frame, in an outline, well turned out, usually well groomed. But actually that's not really what they are. So we have to be really present in the moment when we're training and make sure that we are training each part of the horse's body, not a theoretical horse at the finish, to make that possible. So to make that a little bit easier, I mean, there's so many things. It's such a brain melt having to think about dressage. I think that's why more people are show jumpers. It's such a brain melt trying to keep track of everything, keep control of everything. So the first thing I would try and get a rider to recognize when they're on their horse is that they're not that theoretical picture. They're not that 16-2, middle-bred average theoretical horse equal from side to side. They are a physical creature that comes with a particular height, a particular length of body, a particular breed type, a shape, a personality, and a background of training. So right from the moment when it's weaned and that whole young horse upbringing, that leaves an imprint. So all of that has to be taken into account before we even begin to think about how should my horse leg yield for a novice 27 or whatever it happens to be. In that, again, brain melt moment, in that we want to draw that down to something simple. When you're riding your horse, you have to weigh it up and think, is this an evasion or is this a weakness? Because we've been given the wrong end of the picture, we tend to judge everything as lesser than the theoretical horse. So we speak about a horse with a lazy hind leg or a tight neck, as if that's something the horse has consciously decided on, instead of thinking that is a weakness, a natural weakness or a trained weakness, that the rider has a responsibility to support them through. So you're not looking at your theoretical horse, you're not looking at your theoretical movement or your level in an effort to punish your horse, or for lots of riders to feel like we're not doing enough. You're looking at it to show up where the gaps might be, where you should be putting your attention, where that critical analysis is going, so that you can then start to find the best solution for your horse. Not the most average solution, not the most theoretical solution, because really my experience is that they don't work. We end up reapplying the theoretical stuff over and over and over and over again, and it doesn't do anything, so we apply it even more or even stronger. And then we start dipping into the description of horses about how he's quirky or he's sharp or his mother didn't like that venue and all of that nonsense, and it really is just nonsense. Now, it can be useful to help steer us the right direction, but that's just story. And as horse people, we're really very good at giving into story about the colour of a horse, or where it came from, or what day of the week. For most of you that have had any sort of engagement with me, you'll have heard the story about one lady who said her horse wouldn't do dressage on a Wednesday. I'm less convinced that horses think like that. So something is either possible or less possible. Something is either strong enough that they can cope with it or make an effort, or so weak that they feel less confident about making effort. So in those moments, if you're a rider and you're thinking about a lazy left hind leg, and you've already acknowledged that it's a weakness, then it changes the perspective of how you apply the support aids to improve that left hind leg. It changes the perspective on what happens when you apply the left leg. The horse answers, he makes an attempt, and he possibly loses it a little. We're on a very popular dog walking track here, so there's going to be a little bit background noise. In that sense, if you've acknowledged that your horse is weak in that left hind leg, you then start to think about a leg yield. It's going to change how you apply a left leg yield and a right leg yield. So one has to, in an acknowledged way, give the horse a little bit of leeway while he's making more effort to cross with that left hind leg. If we judge the horse purely off the theoretical of what that level should be, or his age or his type, there is a potential for the work to become a little bit punishing, less rewarding for the horse, and quite mechanical. And in that mechanical training, what happens is lots of horses can just feel like they're being a little bit bullied, or if we're trying to be very kind, we end up being less supportive than we should be. Either way, you end up with a horse that's less confident in what it's doing and more confident in its default mode. So its default mode may be to slow down, it might be to get a little bit fizzy, it might be to try and buck you off and stand on your head. All those are possibilities. But as riders, we should be able to critically analyze, so the horse is not relying on his wits to get him through his day, his wits to get him through a test, and not relying on his mood or his wits to deal with us as physical creatures on board at a competition, wondering why is my shirt too tight, my jacket doesn't fit, I don't have the right style hat, my boots are too tight, and why isn't he doing this thing, and the wind is coming from the wrong direction, all of that nonsense. So we've got to let go of our story, let go of their story, and start getting to a moment with the training where you can say, this is my horse, these are his weak moments, and this is the pattern of riding that I have to support those weak moments in every single movement. So that is just riding straight, riding a circle, riding a leg yield, riding a canter transition. And that's going to be the basis of how you make sure that you're developing your horse at a competition, not just competing your horse at a competition. So later on in the next couple of videos, we're going to talk a little bit about making things better or worse, and the idea that there's probably not anywhere in between. Before we get to that heavy, slightly emotional question, let's take some time to check with our horses, is something an evasion or is it a weakness? And if there's any doubt in your mind at all, any moment where you think it's possibly a weakness, that there could be an influencing factor there, that's where you have to take that brain space, take that moment, think about how you can help your horse more rather than correct him more. Okay, so we're signing off. That's enough homework for everybody. Let's talk soon.